So you're feeling stuck between the 3D material and the spiritual. And stuck is a very strong word. I wouldn't choose it, but this is how it's being presented to me many times. So I want to use that narrative, the storyline. So welcome, first of all. Um, this video is from my perspective. And of course, it's from my perspective, from my world. Why did I even have to say that? We live in a subjective reality. I think I wanted to say that so that we're clear that this is not an absolute. My world is pretty wide. If you feel called into this space, this discussion is for you, because this is not a quick, here are 5 steps how to get yourself unstuck. This is before that. This is a higher perspective. And maybe what I want to say is that my world really celebrates differences. I think this is how we interweave and we create movement and momentum. Maybe I want to say that I feel my world is very simple. Again, not an absolute. It is very simple compared to those worlds that I have the honor to witness. And I'm realizing the amount of chaos that can exist in one world that existed in my world, but I kind of forgot about it. And now I'm truly honored actually to get to witness, but still from my very simple world. So am I saying that I'm better than anyone or anything like that? I haven't thought like that in a very long time. What I'm saying is that the higher the contrast, the more potential for movement, for change, for a, a movement, a shift in perspective, let's just say. Yeah, so I think that's why I said it's from my perspective. But anyway, so the stuckness, I really think it's just part of the mechanism, right? It's part of the story of unfolding within ourselves or of ourselves, or both. Because it has to start somewhere, right? So we get to experience the 3D fully, and then we get to experience our spiritual aspect many times fully. And they seem totally different realms. And they are, right? They are different spaces. They are different vibrational, they're different frequencies. And even if you got really good at moving through the material, let's just say, but then you also got really good at mastering your spiritual, and you got them to mesh for a while, you were in some synchronistic flow, things were aligning most of the time. The more you got better at both individually, the more they started to split apart, and the more they became, it's either or. And now you're feeling like you have to make a choice. Now you're feeling either one has abandoned you, or you abandoned because you had to, it was it was becoming very difficult for you to maintain that coexistence. And that is because the next step is creating this bridge, a true bridge, not just an overlap in understanding. Because see, when spirituality is outside of us and it's very mental and you understand many, many things, yet it's still out there. So it's easy for you to be separate and to be spiritual as the doer within spirituality, and then to be the doer within the 3D. But then when that comes to a full ripening, it's asking you to integrate both worlds, to embody both spaces. And so this place of you feeling stuck is the invitation towards integration, embodiment. Embodiment is a spectrum. Most likely, embodiment has already started. So imagine it's kind of a bridge between these two locations, a bridge between the frequency, right? I'm calling it even a third plane, because you've been in the spiritual plane, you've been in the material plane, and now this third plane is this connection. And this connection, when I said it is a spectrum, it is a literal brick by brick building of a whole different system, interconnecting everything you know to create a much larger perception of who you are. So integration is actually a capacity. So when I say capacity, I truly mean CPU. What is your processing power for you to hold awareness of yourself in both realms? So how do you build capacity then? Well, capacity is just practice. It is a practice to increase your vision, your love, your awareness within the spiritual, mental, and emotional. It is a practice of nervous system integration, and that can be done whatever floats your boat. It might be breathwork practice. It might be a yoga practice, especially Kundalini yoga. It could be your artistic process, whatever. And then on the physical, there are behavioral psychology. Behavioral psychology especially has a lot of tools how to embody and practice embodiment into behavioral day-to-day situation. So before this, there comes this other moment though where you have to come to your own decision. And this decision is about committing to your own path of self-love, whatever you want to call it, your own path of devotion to yourself. Your self non-betrayal. Yourself first, no matter what. And if you have not reached this point, it is very difficult to take on any practice of embodiment that will actually get you anywhere long term. Because remember, I told you this is a spectrum. This is kind of the path of constantly arriving with every brick deeper into yourself, but the path keeps on going without like you know, a true static arrival. Actually, the more you are arriving into yourself, the higher capacity for you to accept a higher rate of change within yourself. And so this feeling of stabilizing, this feeling, this celebration of arrival becomes very dynamic. But without this commitment, it's almost like you're creating bricks, right? Because you're still moving somehow forward, but the bricks are independent. It just feels like you're not building on top of each other, on top of yourself. And it creates this feeling of stuck. This is what I'm saying, where, remember, there's stuck where you just keep arriving in the same place. This other level, you are integrating and you have started that integration process, but you're not integrating linearly. There is no linearity, by the way. But it does create this feeling that I'm making progress within myself. So this stuckness is a spiral. Even though you're arriving and it feels like you're not arriving, or you're not moving onward, you're landing at a higher place than before, right? And so even though you might have situations that keep turning you back, it's not quite back, but you're not still breaking the pattern fully. See, that I don't think it's true to call stuck, because you're just moving forward slower. When you get to this point of, I am now ready to commit this work to myself first, my self-love comes first before everything else, even if it's not perfect. When you come to this point, integration happens at a vastly different rate. Unfortunately, this point that I'm talking about can show up in the darkest of the darkest hours we've ever experienced. It feels like defeat. Not only defeat, it feels like the mother of defeats. It feels very hopeless. But if you're able to make that commitment, that, and again, it's not like you can make that commitment. It's almost like The only commitment that's available to you is the commitment to finally love yourself first and only yourself first. Those are hard times. If, and sometimes it's when that point reaches you, and it's not necessary for it to reach you. You can commit to yourself sooner than that. You have to understand that your body is not ready. There are no resources left. You consumed everything, every ounce of energy, if you measure energy in ounces, on defending, keeping whatever structure upright that you believed it's true and right, and starting any 5-step programs, 10, 12, 12 steps, whatever, I don't care. It's not recommended because, again, you need to first fill up. So the rule of defeat, this is the 5 of Swords. The symbolism of that is, if you are long enough in the 5 of Swords, you are now embodying the 7 of Swords, which is self-sabotage, which means your body, your world knows that if you try to get out of defeat, you have already a mechanism built in that is active. And whenever you think you're outside of this defeating pattern, the self-sabotage is going to kick in, and it's going to do everything it can to get yourself back on the wheel of defeat. And so what we are learning from, which is also very much combined with the Wheel of Fortune, I think, in my understanding, which is the 10, you have to build enough energetic quotient up to a 10 or beyond it to move the Wheel of Fortune beyond the 7, beyond the self-sabotage, right? So the story goes, if you got defeated into a situation, the next time you try, you should have enough energy not only to get yourself into a new pattern, but also overcome the experience of the first defeat. Now, most of us, we're pretty stubborn, and we didn't fail at something just once. We failed at something multiple times. And if that's the case, we gotta rest and we gotta build up enough energetic momentum to defeat the memory of all previous defeats, not only to break the pattern, but also to move through. I think I have a video on this. I'll link the video if this is of interest. The point is, allow yourself to feel into this space of stuck. Let it. You know that book, Let Them? Let the defeat itself. Let it run itself out of energy, so that is behind the defeat can rest. and gain energetic quotient to pick yourself up and decide, commit to this alignment of self-love. And just me saying that, the space on that heart axis has the opportunity to just rest. Has the opportunity to create space, has the opportunity to create a clarity that it just never had the opportunity to have, because it was too busy defending, holding upright, being righteous, pleasing people. And also, if you're dealing with pain in the body, if you're dealing with physical pain, or pain from loss, more of an emotional pain, just from my experience, it doesn't help at that point, especially coming with these spiritual teachings, right? Such as this pain is an illusion. The contrast and frequency is too high. It doesn't connect. And so the rest is necessary for all that chaos to settle for a moment. All the dust in the air needs to just settle before your body can even accept anything slightly more positive. And so I want to say that integration, this path into the unfolding of love, of the self, is probably the hardest thing that you've ever done in your life. And all the things that you thought were difficult before, when you worked with whatever spiritual practices you have done, it still doesn't compare to the work that lies ahead as you embody yourself, your higher aspect of love, into everything that you have weaved your capacity through the density, if that makes sense. And it's not doom and gloom, because the love, the magic, the amazingness on this path also doesn't compare. What I'm saying is, when you have availability to not just understanding the situation, but when you have access to a multidimensional experience, and that situation opens up across timelines, across the quantum, um, well, it's actually the book of records, the Akash. You have access to a very wide energetic experience. It is way more profound. But see, your capacity, that's why it's a practice, right? So once you start that commitment to the self, and you're starting to practice that commitment, and you have to practice it on all levels: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. Everything has to come together. Then your capacity on all those levels starts to work together and starts to open up. And what is opening up to you um, is more profound, brick by brick. Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say here, I want you to be prepared that even if you think you are in a space of hardship, you might be in a space of hardship on the 3D. This is just one point of decision making. This is yet another step in the unfolding. It is only preparing you for the next step. And the next step is another point in the arrival, preparing you in the next step. The point is, get yourself into the space where you can move the wheel. And you move the wheel until the wheel is so integrated and so embodied in you that you become the wheel. You are the bridge between these worlds. And from here, life starts to simplify because you're not lost in the chaos. Chaos can coexist within you. And so, is it possible to do, to make this bridge on your own? I want to say it is possible, but I'm going to say it's impossible. Because, I mean, some points of stuckness that I get to experience, I get to observe, are so deep and they are so heavy that I don't know how it's possible for a single person to carry this much sorrow, this much burden within. And so you also need to think a little bit what it is that you need. And this comes from knowing yourself. For me, I just know that without the support of the people that I had and I have around me, I don't know what would have happened. Yeah. Yeah. And so I want you to think about possibilities that are available that at this moment you're not capable of integrating, but that you have to get yourself into a place of being able to um, support yourself upon. Does that make sense? So, meaning, again, where I'm coming from, it was impossible for me to conceive, to ask for help. It had to be my own doing, right? It had to be from my own standing. And that was simply not sustainable. So when I reached finally this level of, I have to figure this out, how do I allow support, and what type of support can I work with? What feels like I can rest within that support? And I think it's only you who can figure this out, because there's lots of support available. A lot of it is free. A lot of it is right there. I just didn't tap into it. You couldn't. I want to definitely provide this level of space. One of the things that came up, actually, this activation, this transmission came first. I'm going to link this energetic activation, which came through as a bridge between information and knowing. This is our interface between the outside and the inside. And I wasn't sure what to do with it. Like, what is it for? How do I use it? So this is a spiritual tool. This is to get you going once you have enough energetic quotient, because it has to be followed through with understanding it from not understanding, but it has to create enough space within the neural network so that it can start create new behavior, or the desire for new behavior, or to maintain stronger behavior. And then from there, I do want to carry this out into our discussion groups that I hold online weekly, where we can take this information and bring it practically and apply it into our lives. But this is just an example, right? This is an example of how I see within my world how one can move through this feeling of feeling stuck. And not coincidentally, this is how I got to move through. And maybe on a personal level, I have a knowing, and I have an example that this is a proven path, right? Because it worked on me. And so this is one way, right? This is my way. It is my world of coming unstuck. It has proven to me. I've proved myself to me, for me, of how this works. The idea here is, how does this apply to you? How can you translate this world to you? And if anything, allow simply the energetics for something that has been entangled so far to serve as inspiration, to serve as a breath of fresh air. Yeah. And that's what we are, right? No matter how we show up. I also get this a lot. Uh, Justifications for breaking down, justifications for anger, expressing anger. And what I say to that is, it's time. It's time to drop the justification. Do you think it was the tea that put you into this space and created uh, a release? Do you think it was what you ate for lunch, or it was, the trigger of that coworker, your ex-husband, that finally got you to release that anger in this safe space? When you get the taste of this freedom, that when we show up at a low moment and we get to share the worst of who we are, we have to apologize later. We have to justify, how did this happen? Because the other people in circle maintain their cool, and they're better than you. They're further along spiritually than you. That's such bullcrap. Such bullcrap. Ah, I wish I can, I don't know, celebrate ourselves more in our highs and our lows. And maybe same, I'm saying that because, I really try to make these videos on my highs only. I want to just share when I'm my best, physically, energetically, even though coherently speaking, or, public speaking, I'm still not there, but my presence, I really try to share when at my best. And I guess what I'm saying even to myself is like, don't. Oh God. Because when those sorrow waves come by, I mean, I can barely talk some days. There's a lot of crying that's going on. And do I think the world is less beautiful? No. The magic is there, still there, and I'm crying. And this week, I've been triggered so hard. Here's a share. My recent trigger came when one of the messages that I felt was so for me from one of my stronger YouTubers, right? And the message was, it's very important for God to share this. Or how did it go now? It's very important for me to know that I am very important to God. From 0 to 100, the anger that came through, because where was God when I had to figure it all out myself, when the abandonment was at the highest? Where was God then? So do you think now I think that's important? That's no longer important for me. I don't care what even God thinks about myself, because I'm good. I'm great. So God can take its message and do whatever it wants. I don't need to know that. And once that anger got out, I'm like, oh, wait, God doesn't speak like that. That was not a message from God. It was definitely not a message from God. So then who spoke in that message? Oh, yeah. Hold on. He was still my masculine, abandoning my feminine. The feminine having to carry both of that union within its strength to then hold space for that feminine to for her own, within her own healing, to wait and honor the masculine's healing and reunion. And even though that reunion, whatever, reunited, the relationship is ongoing. And those triggers are still there. But what's beautiful about it is that I can recognize, right? Once that trigger is allowed to self-express in something that, in my judgment, let's say, I shouldn't even be triggered, maybe. It's not, I don't want to still be triggered. It's a short-lived trigger. It comes and goes, like literally, it's within minutes. And then I come back to my center effortlessly. And then I can view all this from a whole different perspective and then come back into the celebration, right, of myself again. And so there's absolutely no shame anymore. There's absolutely no guilt. The judgment to the self is so small. And the magic is even more colorful because of that. So that's the point, at least where I'm at right now. The point is, can we drop this shame and guilt and judgment and allow the self-expression, whether it's good or bad, because that's the beauty, that's the magic. It's the broken glass. What's that Japanese art, right? They're creating these magical pieces, and then they break them to then glue the piece together as an even higher expression of that art. Yeah, that's what this space is about. So check out my work, and I wish you all the best. I'll see you around.